guys, welcome back to another TENFITMEN video analysis, and today we will analyze my good friend Michael Levano's serve. And Michael is on the right side, and I will first play his serve in slow motion so we can take a look on some details, and during that time I will shortly introduce him. Michael is a director of Shanghai Rolex Masters that's taking place every year in October in Shanghai, and he's also the main person for the Formula 1 event in Shanghai. So I'm very fortunate to know him and sometimes to play some doubles and hang out with him in our club in Shanghai. He asked me to try to help him with his serve, and especially he wanted to work on getting more power on the serve. So here I will try to do that live and try to compare his serve with mine, and I also try to find the closest angle for my serve so we can compare. Yes, he's serving on the due side, I'm on the ad side, but we can still see some differences, and hopefully Michael can learn a bit from this video and this can help him to improve his serve. So I will again play the video of him and point out to some small things. As you can see from the beginning here, even before he gets more into the serve, his stance is more open. Even though it's on due side, his back foot should be more behind. As you can see here on the left side, the way I stand, and then when I'm starting my serve, my back foot is way behind, so my body is a lot more rotated. It has a more rotation, which will enable me to use more body into the serve when I start a serve and when I rotate the body. If we continue with his serve after this, we will notice here in this position that his hips are already starting to turn, and he's losing that momentum of the hips rotation in his serve because he started with the open stance and he's also rotating a bit too early. If you look on the left side, when I'm getting into the similar position here, you can see the angle of my hips are, I would say, roughly with 45 degrees towards the baseline, while his are actually, they're crossing the 90 degrees. So he lost a lot of rotation space there, and this is causing his serve also to lose some power. If we continue with the serve, we can also see here when he's getting into this trophy position, his right elbow is not getting into the low enough position, so he's not getting the shoulder over shoulder rotation. If you look at the left side, as you see, my right shoulder is a bit lower, so I'm getting more of that shoulder over shoulder rotation. Also, the rotation of the shoulders, not just the hips, it's also the key. You can also see, can compare. The angle of the camera is a little bit different, but you can see that his shoulders are not turned enough. Here, the shoulders, and on the left side where you can see, I'm showing my back to the opponent while his back is actually facing to the side fence, to the left fence. Another thing is use of the legs. As you can see here, I will go back. When he's starting the serve, and when he's getting into the trophy position, he's getting a bit low and using his knees, but he's not completely using full potential from his legs. As you can see on the left side, in my case, I'm getting much lower. As you can see, the angle of my legs and the knees, it's roughly 90 degrees, while his angle here is much more than 90 degrees here. I would say 115, 120 degrees. So he has a lot of potential there. Continue with the serve. As I mentioned before, I think one of the main issues, as I could call them, with Michael's serve is that his hips as I mentioned here, turning too early, and he's losing that momentum on the serve. On the moment of contact, his hips are turned exactly parallel to the baseline and to the net, which is okay, but the problem is that he didn't have enough momentum, so he didn't actually generate enough speed on the turn, on the body rotation, which is resulting in a more racket speed. On the left side, you can see that my hips, I'm going up straight without turning too much hips, and then after this point I'm gonna have much bigger degree of rotation of the hips. As you can see here, I'm already going up with the racket, and then I'm starting to rotate with the hips here. So here, as you can see here, I'm almost sideways to the baseline, and then my racket already going up, and then I'm generating more rotation, which will enable me to generate more racket speed at the end. I would like to point out one more thing, and that is from this position, just before we are getting into the trophy position, I will first play Michael's serve. As you can see here, even before he's dropping the racket, he is already starting to lift his elbow up. As you may know, the serve should always start with the elbow should lead the racket. But in Michael's case, he's starting to lift the elbow before his racket is in that position there, and in that way he's also turning the shoulders a bit too early. So he is leading with the elbow here, and it's actually quite a good angle. As you can see, his forearm is kind of 90 degrees, maybe even less than 90, which is actually good. So the less this angle between forearm and the other part of the arm is, the smaller the angle, we can generate more of that racket speed. But the issue here is that he's lifting his elbow before his racket is dropping. So I would recommend that he works on that, keeping the elbow in this position, and then only when the racket is a bit lower position, then he can start to lift the elbow and lead his serve. On the left side, you can see in my case, so I'm coming to the trophy position, and then I'm dropping the racket behind here, and as you can see, only now here the racket is already lower, then I'm starting to lead the serve with the elbow. In that case, I'm not turning too early, I'm staying in that position, and then I can generate more racket speed prior to the contact. In Michael's case, once again, from this position here, again, he should be turned more. He's already lifting his elbow and his shoulder, turning too early before the racket dropped, and then he continues to lead with the elbow. So he should wait a bit with that movement of the elbow and the turn. Another thing that I would point out here with the Michael service, after the contact point, so you pay close attention to his racket and to his hand after the contact point. As you may know, the so-called pronation motion after the contact, which is turning the racket outwards using the forearm. So here you can see how much he uses the pronation, but this is the biggest angle of his racket after the contact. And let's check out on the left side when I hit. Sorry for the quality of the video, because this was recorded during the evening, so it's a bit blurry, but you can see here how much I pronate here the racket. By the way, my serve is also the first serve, it was not a kick. Look at my racket, it's completely turned, while on the right side, Michael's racket, after the contact here, his racket is turning up to this point, so his racket is still facing the ground, while my racket, after the contact here, turns to the side, to the right side, even a bit upwards. So I'm getting much more pronation, which by default is creating more power, more speed of the serve. And you can think of that as, you can see here, when I'm starting to go for the contact point, this is where the pronation starts, and it's resulting with a higher racket speed because I'm adding that extra motion, and this will create more power on the ball. So that's another thing what Michael can work on, is to actually pronate more. So starting from here, everything here is fine. He's going with the edge up, and then he's pronating, but not quite enough. That's another point. Here I can also see where Michael lands after the serve. This should be more in the court, so his toss should be maybe a little bit more forward, so that he can jump further into the court. You can see it on my serve. After I hit the ball, and then I will jump further in the court, so that will enable me to put more body and more energy into the serve. So that was in general a quick analysis of his serve, and I try to compare it with mine. I will try to also see a couple of more things, maybe some small details. I'm sure you noticed that he's using the platform stance and I'm using the pinpoint, which both are fine, and with both types of serve we can generate a good solid power, and you have many examples of that on the ATP Tour. I would say the main points here are to have more sideways position prior to the serve, having the hips turn a bit more before you go into the jump, also the shoulder rotation and shoulder over shoulder, trying to have your chest more pointing up. As you see the Michael, he's not quite having that enough turn of the shoulders, and also shoulder over shoulder. Maybe you notice on my serve here that when I'm dropping the racket, I'm not actually going the racket edge down, which many coaches will point out and maybe say that this is incorrect, but if you take a closer look, some of the best servers, they have a similar motion, so this is not quite a big issue, because you can still generate a lot of racket speed by using the body turn, the hips and the shoulders, and at the end using the good pronation. Of course, the contact point is very important, keeping it as high as you can, having the arm straight above you when you're hitting the ball. Michael is doing a good job with that, so he's going up high. I think he has a little bit more space to have even a higher contact point, but I think the main issues are, as I pointed out before, more turned position and using more hip and shoulder rotations, finishing up with a more pronation on the serve. I will play once again both serves so we can take a closer look on that. So you can tell in general how Michael didn't turn enough, which didn't enable him to generate enough power and the racket speed. So I hope, guys, that was helpful and that you learned some new things about the serves, and also feel free to let me know about any questions that you have regarding the serve, regarding this video, regarding this analysis, but also if you have some of your videos or some questions regarding the serve, please let me know. I would be very glad to help you with that. And definitely, if you like the video, click the like button. You can share it with your friends, with other players and coaches, and subscribe to our channel if you didn't so far. As you can see, we are trying to post different things and trying to expand our channel into more types of videos, and soon we will also make some documentaries regarding some of my tournaments. And yes, we will continue with our vlogs and this video analysis and different technical videos. So I will see you very soon in our next video, and until then, work hard and get better every day.